Today we have a very special guest, someone I'm very looking forward to talk to, and that is Kyle Hiebert from St. Louis City. And Kyle, before we bring in, I just want to ask you, you went from undrafted to playing in Major League Soccer in 12 months. That is a crazy impressive accomplishment. I want you to tell me just a little bit about that journey.
You know, the journey's had ups and downs for sure. I remember when our college season ended, I played at Missouri State. Our college season ended in the fall of 2021. You know, not getting invited to the MLS Combine was pretty devastating. I was like, what's next? And I think it was that same day, you know, maybe they saw the Combine list, we weren't on it. John Hackworth called. So I guess he had seen me play during the year. And so he called and said, hey, St. Louis City is interested. And they came up with a deal that I think suited me very well. It was a one-year deal with the second team with an option to sign for the first team after that. And I believe, you know, over the course of a year, hopefully some of my attributes more than, you know, trying to stand out. Even when you get drafted, you're trying to stand out in a week or two or three, and a lot of intangibles don't come to the forefront as much so in that case. So I actually thought being in that situation, being locked in 1 year with the second team, with a first team that didn't exist yet was the perfect scenario and situation for me.
I know you've mentioned in the past you had a good relationship with, you know, Valor and the ex-coach Rob Gale, who you worked with. So what do you make of that growth of soccer, and how was it growing up playing soccer in a place like Manitoba?
Manitoba is kind of like a melting pot of a whole bunch of different cultures and people that come in, and usually they play soccer. So I was very blessed. I got to play and meet people from all over the world from a young age. And that's something that I would never change. And I know it's had a really big influence on me. And we got people from all over the world as well. And that's kind of been my soccer journey. But yeah, I met Rob Gale when I was younger. He coached me. They used to have, they call it like a national development center, since Manitoba didn't have an MLS team in our backyard. And he was the coach who called me into, I had 2 stints with the Canada U18 national team. So yeah, he'll always have a special place in my heart for, you know, phenomenal coach, great guy, love him to death.
You had a lot of adversity to start off your college career. I know you had those 2 serious knee injuries. How did that motivate you to get back and to make it back on the field during your time at Missouri State? I
tore my MCL before going to Missouri State. It wasn't even supposed to be in my left knee. It wasn't supposed to be a season-ending injury. But I just, that whole season, I was 2 weeks away. Every time I went and saw the doctor, I was like, oh, 2 weeks away, you're just cleared to run in a straight line. And so that's all I would do, is just run in a straight line while everyone else would practice and play. And then for the second knee injury was super tough, just because I had fought and earned a starting spot in the spring and was starting the preseason games, and then I tore my PCL in my right knee. And that one, I knew instantly. I was like, my season's over. But yeah, I never stopped believing. I knew God had a plan for me and my life. And so I held on to that, and there were definitely ups and downs, but there was always the light at the end of the tunnel for me. And at that point, it was to get healthy and see if I could be a really good college soccer player. But I knew that, you know, taking it one step at a time, that would hopefully create opportunities to do what I'm doing now. We had a group of guys that was super dialed into just taking it day by day. I remember in 2019, 2019 was the year where it clicked for us. We went 16-0-0 in the regular season. And we won like 4 or 5 overtime games. Like, there were some tight games, but we just found a way to win, whether it was on the road, whether it was ugly, whether it was in overtime. There were so many guys who put so much into that season that just went unnoticed. And I was getting a lot of individual attention. It almost felt wrong that I was getting all this recognition. You know what I mean? When it was like, these other guys are also putting in a ton of work and they're going under the radar. But it was definitely something that, you know, when I look back on the people on my soccer journey, those teammates, those guys, even if they weren't playing, the coaches, the training staff, everybody has contributed to me being where I'm at right now.
What's it been like just getting embedded in, you know, Missouri, which has a very rich soccer culture? We've obviously had a chance to learn a lot about it with St. Louis's, you know, story as becoming an MLS team, but your part having played at the college level, now played at the pro level, and having seen it firsthand.
Yeah, I mean, I love Missouri. I love the Midwest. It's actually where I would want to be. Some guys talk about, oh, there's this appeal of, you know, the big cities, but I grew up on a farm for 8 years, my first 8 years of my life, and then I was in a small town actually just outside of Winnipeg. I say I'm from Winnipeg because, well, even then, a lot of Americans don't even know where Winnipeg is. But it's like, give them more of a benchmark or something. I was like, okay, where if I say I'm from LaSalle, Manitoba, then I've really lost everybody. What maybe translates from, Central Canada down through the Midwest is number one, the hospitality and the kindness of the people. And something I didn't realize as well, which was really big and is continuing to grow, is the love for soccer. Like, we have got crazy fans. They had 6,000 people come out to our home opener in 2022, and that was MLS Next Pro. And for our playoff games, we were having thousands of people drive out, and we were playing like outside of St. Louis on a turf field in Edwardsville, Illinois, and fans were just flooding there to come support us. And so it's kind of those moments, like, that's when I really recognized, St. Louis is a soccer city. When
did you first hear of a potential first team contract coming your way? Was it because you signed, I think it was in August, so was it just August 8th they come in like, look, Kyle, we're ready to sign? Or maybe did you hear rumblings? And what was your reaction when they made it official that you'd be one of St. Louis's first players signed?
I think it was Bradley Carnell, and I heard some stuff. He might have been the first one. He came up and was just like, hey, you're maybe in May, said you're doing really well. Like, you've bought into the principles. We can see your grinding and your work ethic, and you're the type of guy we want to have in the locker room. And a thing that he touched on too was just having a growth mindset, just being ready to improve and grow, because it was like, it's another step up from Next Pro to the MLS. And so I know in order to get there, I would have to grow and improve, as something I was embracing. But he was probably the first one. And then I heard other couple comments, and then maybe it was 3 or 4 weeks after that, they pulled me in with a meeting with Lutz and Coach Hack and Bradley, and we're like, hey, we want to get this deal done. Here's about the time frame. And so I knew a lot earlier than everything got signed and released, which just allowed me just to go out and just have fun and play and just keep doing what I was doing.
I just need to know a little bit more about that home opener for you guys. Like, the crowd was phenomenal. I don't know what other word to use for it. Just tell me what it was like to be on the field, to get the 3 points, and how the crowd potentially pushed you guys on during that match.
Yeah, I mean, we were feeding off. We're a high pressing team, and so we feed off, the crowd's energy early on. And I remember there was just one moment, and I've touched on it in other interviews, but just like Nico Joachini, it's the 5th minute, and he presses the one center back, and he keeps pressing through to the keeper, slide tackles him, wins the ball, plays the ball in, and we get a really good chance, and the crowd went absolutely berserk. And so I was like, all right, we're gonna, like, this pressing style is working, and we're feeding off the crowd's energy. And to be fair, they kept it going the whole game, and especially to end the half the way we did, with getting 2 late goals to going up 2-1, I think was something big that put us in a good position for the second half.
How young were you when you knew that you wanted to be a center back, and maybe were there some players that you really wanted to model your game after, and inspire yourself to be a center back?
It was when I was 16 or 17. It was actually Rob Gale who said, hey, with the youth national team, the way the midfield is with these guys from, Whitecaps Academy, Montreal Academy, Toronto Academy, there's not really an opening. But if you can, I can see you making the switch and being a center back, and then, with your qualities, I can get you into, the youth national team camp. And I said, oh, I'm in. Like, I just want to be there, represent my country. And so that was actually when I made the switch. And then for about a year, I did a bit of both, a little bit of center back, a little bit of holding mid. And then when I went off to college, it was, at that point, I'd kind of adapted my game, and I was more strictly a center back. And similar type thing, whereas early on, they had these midfielders they really liked. And so, I kind of saw the opening at center back, and so that's where I wanted to stay. Just opportunity to get on the field and play.
Now that you're playing regularly in MLS as a center back, there's other center backs on the team making, playing in MLS at the national team level. Canada has made no secret that they are looking to improve their center back depth. So has your name maybe popped up on the radar? Have you heard anything from John Herdman? Has there been any calls maybe with him or staff? And, what would it mean to potentially be included in that group of center backs for a camp in the near future?
Yeah, I mean, that would obviously be a dream come true, something that, I've had and since I was a little kid. And I think kind of, my focus when I was in college was just, one day at a time and just focus on the college season. And then our coach always said, well, then if you're good enough and if we're good enough, the pro stuff will take care of itself. And so that's kind of my focus now I know that the dream is there, but rather than just focusing on the big dream or the big goals, just try and take it day by day and, focus on Portland now. And can we as a team play well and I play well, and then hopefully, a byproduct of that is something with the Canadians men national team materializing.
Now, has there ever been any conversations, and because you, like you mentioned, have, I'm assuming, dual nationality because you lived in the U.S. obviously for that amount of time. Has there been any conversations around potentially representing the U.S., or has it not really been just a focus on Canada, or what's going on there?
Yeah, I'd say more so Canada. That was a lifelong dream for me when I was a kid. If at that point that's, if the US and the Canada men's national teams both wanted me, that would be a really good problem to have. And so I would cross that bridge when I got there, if that ever happened. But yeah, I guess there is the possibility as a, resident for over 8 years and a green card holder that the US could come calling as well.
There's a changing perception, I guess, around Canadian players. They're getting a lot more opportunities, more than ever before. Have you ever felt overlooked, or what was it like potentially growing up, maybe a little bit before the big spike happened?
Yeah, I mean, I remember I actually tried to go on trial with the Whitecaps Academy. It didn't work out. And then I knew I wanted to play pro, and so I thought, there's all these universities. I met with someone who really knew the D1 college soccer system, and he said, you need to go to one of these. And he laid out kind of like 8 to 15 universities. These are the universities that turn guys pro. And, when I emailed and reached out and I thought I had a decent resume with, Canada youth national team caps and whatnot. And for the vast majority of them, no response at all. And so it was in those moments where man, I felt for sure overlooked. And I ended up having to go to a school which was, ranked at the time I got there 100 and something in the RPI. And that was something I didn't want to go there originally. If I was trying to go to some of these other schools and they weren't interested, and, to have the opportunity to be there at Missouri State so long. And there was a point, I think it was in 2021, where we hit number 2 in the RPI. And I think my mom actually reached out to me and she said, don't you remember when we were looking, we were focused so much on the RPI, and now Missouri State has been transformed into a program that is, they didn't finish in the top 5 or top 10, but just they're, top 25 ranked, top 25 RPI for the last 3 or 4 years. And so just getting a chance to not actually be invited to one of those schools, but to be a part of changing a school and a program into a top program in the nation was something I'll always treasure.
And there's obviously a men's World Cup coming in 2026. I mean, how excited are you to see a potential event like that come to Canada, obviously in a co-hosting capacity, but still very important? And, what would it mean to be potentially involved with Canada in a tournament like that on home soil?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it would be, it would get goosebumps just thinking about it, just being involved in a World Cup with Canada, dream come true, truly incredible. And the fact that Canada men's soccer wasn't in a World Cup for, you guys might know this, I want to say 38 years.
36.
36, yeah, 38. Yeah, that's not a product of 4, I guess. But then for them to be now back-to-back World Cup, 2022 and then 2026 as well is, hopefully can shine some light on the, on the program and on Canada and what they're doing, and encourage other Canadian, youth to get involved, to play. I think that would be a big time success for Canada soccer.
That's all the questions we have for you today, Kyle. We really appreciate you coming on. It's been absolutely fascinating to hear about your story and seeing just how well St. Louis is going to do. So hopefully a lot of Canadians out here will be able to, keep a special eye on you and maybe see you with the Maple Leaf jersey coming up. But we really appreciate the time, Kyle, and we wish you the best of luck this season.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Alex.